From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
The big cheese. See which fromage takes the top prize at this year's World Championship Cheese Contest. Higher food prices, higher gas prices, and a Russian invasion of Ukraine.
I don't think we fully understand totally from an international picture what all this means.
How ag may be able to help bridge the gap as USDA releases new supply-demand numbers with an eye toward the unrest.
It's a pretty substantial revision for USDA.
We'll break it all down as AgDay goes on the road to Commodity Classic. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths coming to you from this year's Commodity Classic in New Orleans, Louisiana. The event just getting underway today at the Ernest Memorial Convention Center, a short walk away from the French Quarter and on the banks of the Mississippi River, right next to the very important Port of New Orleans. This year's theme, the future is in your hands. And that truly is the case for farmers this year, getting ready to make a host of planning decisions, and USDA's new supply-demand numbers just released may factor into that decision. Let's start with a supply picture here in the U.S. Corn ending stocks are lower from last month thanks to an increase in exports, and corn used for ethanol raised 25 million bushels. Stocks reported at 1.4 billion bushels, and the number was slightly less than the trade expected. For soybeans, 285 million bushels still in the bin, slightly above trade expectations. Exports, they were raised 40 million bushels. Wheat coming in at 653 million bushels, with exports cut by 10 million bushels, a little higher than the trade was expecting.
I would emphasize this super volatile market situation will be a threat to farmers potentially in the future. So even though this price plummet is not very likely at this moment, but still farmers should be always ready for this pessimistic scenarios as well.
USDA also taking an early look at the impacts of the Russian invasion of Ukraine and what it's having on supplies. The agency stating in the latest supply-demand report, the military action has significantly increased the uncertainty of ag supply and demand conditions in the region and globally. It says this month's report represents an initial assessment of the short-term impacts. Looking at world wheat stocks, they came in much higher than anticipated, but it did cut 4 million tons from Ukraine and 3 million from Russia. It says the cuts are partially offset by increases from Australia and India, up 3.5 million combined. Now for corn, it's raising exports for the U.S. based on expected lower exports from Ukraine. For soybeans, global stocks were lowered almost 3 million metric tons to just under 90 million, the lowest level since 2015 due to lower exports from South America.
And many people were probably surprised that global ending stocks of wheat were up 3 million metric tons. And when you step back and think about it, it makes a lot of sense. This conflict is very different than if we had a production shortfall due to a drought or disease or something like that somewhere in the world, right? The bushels are still there. They're just pent up and they can't escape, right? So when we see revisions down in Ukraine and Russia wheat exports, it's not like they just disappear. They go into ending stocks. And of course, those ending stocks are captured in world ending stocks as well.
And Ukraine is banning the export of several key ag goods. It says it's doing it in order to prevent a humanitarian crisis in the country. For now, it will not allow the exports of rye, barley, buckwheat, millet, sugar, salt, and meat. It also imposed export licenses, but not an outright ban on wheat, corn, and sunflower oil. As we've been reporting, Ukraine, along with Russia, supply almost 30% of the world's wheat exports. The invasion also leading to higher gas prices, but oil prices did ease a bit midweek. AAA putting the national average for a gallon of gas at $4.25 a gallon. That's even higher than the record $4.17 hit earlier in the week. The president of the American Farm Bureau Federation sending a letter to President Biden, Zippy Duvall, asking the administration to remove barriers to domestic energy production. That includes increasing the production of biofuels. Duvall saying that expanding the volume of American-made ethanol in the U.S. fuel supply could help alleviate some of the issues, as ethanol is currently priced 70 to 80 cents per gallon lower than regular gas. Higher gas prices, higher commodity prices, and the Russian invasion of Ukraine are all top of mind here at Commodity Classic this year. Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan talks with industry leaders as they try to wrap their minds around all of these issues that are changing by the minute.
I don't think we fully understand totally from an international picture what all this means. We know that there are many disruptions of normal trade patterns because the two countries are significant in terms of trade with a lot of different countries around the world. We also know that, we're not very far away from planting time.
The extent of the damage won't be known for quite some time, but it's infrastructure that's also taking a hit.
When you look at the map of Ukraine, their biggest part of their wheat belt is definitely on that eastern border where Russia has invaded. And that's where their wheat production predominantly is. And then it's transported to the southwestern part of the country, closer to the Black Sea for transportation.
Just this week, the U.S. and U.K. banned oil imports from Russia. The CEO of American Soybean Association, Stephen Sensky, thinks U.S.-produced biofuels are a ready-made solution to help fill the gap today.
Given the situation that's happening worldwide, given with the Russia-Ukraine situation and what a big exporter Russia is of energy, given the administration's focus on climate and reducing, doing all that we can to reduce the impacts of climate change and to address that in a meaningful way, we have ready-made solutions to address both of those, and that's through increasing opportunities for renewable biofuels to compete and to provide incentives and to create that space. We think it's both good for national security, and we think it's also good for the environment.
And it's all hitting at a time that the world is trying to recover from COVID supply chain issues.
And to think that that's not going to affect food prices, I think is really just foolish. And so I think we're really heading into some economic difficult times. And people may say, hey, look, the wheat price is limited up 3 days. Yes, but look at how much the cost of production has also gone up. It's eaten up all of that profit that would have been made available to our U.S. wheat growers.
Heavy snow falling in Wyoming as winter returns to the area. Meteorologists calling for up to 6 inches of snow in places like Casper, with even more snow expected in the mountains. Portions of I-80 near Laramie closed due to all of the snow. Most of the southeastern part of that state under a winter storm warning, with snow expected to continue through Friday. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joining us. And Matt, we're talking about a lot of late season snow for the plains.
Yeah, Clinton, that's right. A lot of snow for the plains states, but then that's all going to move its way off towards the east coast, and that's because big dip in the jet stream is going to allow that storm system right up the east coast, bringing a lot of cold air in behind it. We are going to be looking at a decent amount of accumulating snow right up there through interior portions of the mid-Atlantic and into the northeast as well. Meanwhile, mild air starting to build back to the west. So here's a look at future track, kind of zoomed in here, heading into really the Great Lakes, northeast, and parts of the Mid-South. We've got that cold front moving eastward as we head through Friday afternoon. Once this storm system really gets ramped up, we're going to slowly start to see that heavier snow move its way on in through the mountains there, through really North Carolina up to Virginia, and then up into the northeast. And that's all out of here. It's a quick moving system. By early Thursday or early Sunday morning, not much will be left from that system. But we're looking at a little bit of snow for parts of the South, Arkansas to Nashville, and then 3 to 6 inches with isolated spots right here in the mountains, 6 to 12 inches, with a little bit more possible the deeper into New England you get. So that's what we're going to be watching for snowfall over the next 24 to 48 hours.
More of the nation's flocks are testing positive for bird flu. The latest USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service confirming highly pathogenic avian influenza in a commercial turkey flock in Buena Vista County, Iowa. 50,000 birds being depopulated there. Iowa's Governor, Republican Kim Reynolds, has signed a disaster proclamation in an effort to mobilize resources within the state to combat the outbreak. USDA says nearly 2.8 million birds, mostly chickens and turkeys, have died in 1 month due to the virus. The disease has been identified in 23 poultry farms and backyard flocks in a dozen states since the beginning of last month. Now, the first person to receive a heart transplant from a pig has died. The University of Maryland says the 57-year-old man died 2 months after the groundbreaking experiment. David Bennett was a candidate for the surgery because he was dying and wasn't eligible for a human heart transplant. Prior attempts at transplant like this have failed, largely because patients' bodies rapidly rejected the animal organ. This time, the Maryland surgeons use a heart from a gene-edited pig to help prevent rejections. Officials say the transplanted heart performed well for several weeks with no signs of rejection. Now, if you're a farmer trying to figure out these wild markets, you may be wondering what to do next. We'll have some advice coming up in today's analysis, and later, competitors come from around the world to face off in Madison, Wisconsin. See who came out as the big cheese at this year's World Championship Cheese Contest. And have you checked this out yet? On Sunday, brackets will open in the 2022 Bracket Busters Challenge presented by Case IH. Farmers will take on farmers for a chance at a $1,000 top prize. Make sure to check out agweb.com/Bracket Busters for details.
Ag Day is brought to you by Authority Supreme Herbicide from FMC. Learn more at ag.fmc.com.
We're joined today by Darren Pride with Water Street Solutions. Darren, as we look at these overall commodity markets, the last 2 weeks have been just unbelievable. I think the question a lot of farmers are having right now is, how do I manage through this? What is the next thing I need to be looking out for as I move ahead?
Well, I'd say it's two different stories. If you're a producer looking to sell this grain, I don't think there's any rush right now. We know we're in a strong seasonal. That always happens April, May into June. And of course, this year we're set up with this whole Russia-Ukraine situation that takes wheat and corn off the market. And whether Ukraine will even plant a corn crop, that is yet to be seen. So I would hold off on sales. Let's see how more of this settles out. Now, if you're on the livestock side, you have to extend coverage, I think, right now. You have to get coverage out through at least the end of summer, if not longer, until fall, and just see what happens. But I think we have higher prices to come, given the inflationary story and given what's happening in Russia and Ukraine.
Darren, it seems like a week ago we were talking about, you know, we don't know how long this invasion might last. We don't know the duration. We don't know the intensity. It seems like this is setting up to be a little longer term than what we originally thought.
Yeah, it really is. You know, I think, you know, people talk about, you know, China needing grain, needing soybeans and oil and all that. But I really think that they didn't expect this to last long either, maybe a day or two. And this is drug on now. We're approaching week 3 here. And the longer this goes, the more stress we're going to put on the resource market around the world. And we saw some crazy things, you know, here recently with the nickel market. And we're going to continue to see markets break like what we've seen in wheat, nickel. What is next is the real question.
All right. Well, it'll be something to keep an eye on. Appreciate the insights as always, Darren. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
For marketing strategy specific to your operation, contact Water Street Solutions at 866-249-2528 or online at www.waterstreet.org.
Case IH. It's farmer versus farmer for a chance to win the $1,000 top prize. Head to agweb.com today to fill out your bracket. Ag Day weather is brought to you by Zoetis. Even though calves don't wait for perfect weather to arrive, you can count on Zoetis to be there. Share a picture of your newest calf and you could win a calving season survival kit. Enter now at calvingseason.com.
We're joined again by meteorologist Matt Yurosavik. Matt, the jet stream carrying a lot of weather action in this week.
Yeah, that's right, Clinton. It's been a very active last couple of weeks, especially out in the west. But you can see this jet stream really going to start to dig as we head towards the weekend. Notice as we head towards Friday, all this cold air still bottled up here in the upper Midwest and into the northern Great Lakes. But a big dip in the jet stream, bringing some wintry weather all the way down into parts of the Plain States again. And then as that cold air really digs in across the east, we're going to see that system really crash right up the East Coast and interior parts of the Mid-Atlantic and New England, likely to see a decent amount of snow from this midway through the month of March. And then mild air starts to build in as we head through the weekend and into next week. Still looking at the potential for a cutoff low, though. Could keep things pretty interesting across the east as we head through next week. That could be something to watch for more rainfall later on in the forecast period. But for today, again, this afternoon, afternoon, looking again chilly across the north with mild conditions out ahead of this system. That cold air is going to continue to come south, though. Notice temperatures down in Amarillo, 34 tomorrow morning, and keeping it chilly with getting down into the lower 40s in Dallas by tomorrow afternoon, 34 there in St. Louis. 50s and 60s out ahead of the storm, but temperature is going to be dropping quickly as that storm system moves its way on in. So heading through your Thursday, we've got some snow across the plains there, Kansas into Missouri, eventually moving up into parts of the Great Lakes as we head through the afternoon. Most of this right along that front, which is going to be slowly moving to the east, and that is the system right here that's going to bring a big dose of snow to interior portions of the Northeast. And then we've got some shower and thunderstorm activity down there to the south as well. Here's a look at the precipitation. Not a lot back to the west, but enough. We'll get more as we head through the next couple of weeks, but more coming into the Pacific Northwest as we head through the weekend, and then a lot of that coming up through the mid-Atlantic states with that snow. And again, here is that snow map, 6 to 12 inches right through the middle part of the mid-Atlantic and interior parts of New England, with maybe a foot plus closer up towards interior portions of Maine. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Greenwood, South Carolina, a chance of showers, a high of 54 degrees. St. Joseph, Missouri, periods of snow likely, a high of 25 degrees. And Page, Arizona, snow showers likely, a high of 43.
All right, thanks, Matt. Now, we know meat was a hot item at grocery stores during the pandemic, but just how many people were actually buying it? We look at some of the telling numbers next. And later, we celebrate a really big cheese, the top cheese in the world, in the country.
Find farm equipment on Machinery Pete's March 22nd online auction. No reserve, no buyer fees. Start bidding now at auctions.machinerypete.com.
Despite the pandemic, meat is continuing to be a primary buy at the store for many consumers. That's according to the 2022 Power of Meat report. That report says nearly all American households, 98.5% of them, buy meat. And it says sales are up almost 4% for all meat compared to pre-pandemic levels. The researchers attribute that to increased home cooking, record high online shopping, and a shift to going online to look for recipes. The annual study was conducted by market research firm 210 Analytics on behalf of the Food Industry Association, along with the Meat Institute's Foundation for Meat and Poultry Research and Education. Earlier this week, we told you about ranchers in Texas concerned about cattle fever being brought into the country by ticks. Now, a government official is accused of actually allowing tick-infested and diseased cattle into the country. Prosecutors in the U.S. District Court of Laredo, Texas, are charging Roberto Adams with bribery of a public official. In court documents, they say Adams is a USDA lead animal health technician. They claim he was paid to allow the animals in without properly inspecting or quarantining them. Court documents say if found guilty, Adams faces up to 15 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Now, earlier this week, ranchers said they were concerned about deer infected with ticks crossing the Rio Grande River from Mexico into Texas, and they say the river's levels are so low in parts of the state due to the drought, it's easier for wildlife to cross right now. Coming up, life is just better with cheese in it, and this wheel is now the top cheese in the world. We have details next.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator, it's not just any closing wheel. Reach your yield potential. Pre-order by March 31st with coupon code AgDay for $2 shipping per wheel.
So what is the best cheese in the world? Well, according to the judges, it's a Gruyere from Switzerland. In fact, it's been named the world's best for the second consecutive time at this year's World Championship Cheese Contest. And where else but Wisconsin? The cheese comes from Bern, Switzerland. Its maker is Mikkel Speicher of Mountain Dairy Fritzenhaus. He is now a three-time winner of the event, having won in 2020 and 2008. The official name of the cheese is Gourmino La Gruyere AOP. Now, Wisconsin's cheesemakers didn't go away empty-handed, winning 7 of the 20 finalist awards and 45 best-in-class categories. In addition, cheese curds debuted at this year's contest. The contest is the largest cheese, butter, and yogurt competition in the world. There were almost 3,000 entries from 29 countries and 33 states. And that's all the time we have this morning. Join us for more from Commodity Classic right here in New Orleans tomorrow on Ag Day. From all of us, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
Find farm equipment on Machinery Pete's March 22nd online auction. No reserve, no buyer fees. Start bidding now at auctions.machinerypete.com.